Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed at Hitmix 88.9 WEIU.
Welcome to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. I am DJ Apollo, and I just want to say good morning or good evening whenever you are listening to this episode. And I'm feeling pretty good about this one, I'm not going to lie. The last couple of recordings, I kind of felt like I could have did a better job vocal-wise. I've just been extremely stressed out. So for any of you listening in, I am currently a senior in college at Eastern Illinois University, and we're over the halfway point in this semester. So we're at the point now where everything is happening at once. So I've been working my butt off every week because I have all my classes. I'm a full-time news watch worker. I'm a full-time DJ, and I help with ESPN Plus, where we go out and film all the sport games here on campus. And on top of that, I do this gig as well. So I got a lot on my plate that I have to do, but I finally managed to get in some me time recently, so I'm feeling a lot good. I'm feeling a lot better. My mind is definitely a lot healthier than it's been this week, so this is going to be a really good episode. I got a good feeling. And the movie we're going to be talking about today is what I consider to be one of the best superhero movies of all time. I consider this to be the Dark Knight movie of Marvel. The movie I will be discussing is Logan. Oh boy, Logan, the final Wolverine movie, and it's just what way to go out on a high note, man. This movie 5 years later since its release, and man, this was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. This movie is just a chef's kiss superhero masterpiece, and it's not your average hero movie. Now, before we get into it, I figured it'd be a good idea to get a little brief description on how I was introduced to the X-Men movies. So back when I was around, say, 13, 14 years old, actually, I was older than that. I was 15. Yeah, I was 15. And my best friend, Jonathan, who you all remember, was here not too long ago, and we covered the Godzilla movie together. Very amazing episode. Highly recommend you go check it out. It's one of my highest viewed recordings. Anyway, he was the one who introduced me to the X-Men movies because he knew I was big into superhero movies, and we watched all the main X-Men movies together. We watched most of them for the most part. And I got hooked instantly. The first three X-Men movies I thought were so amazing. And obviously, the best part about those movies was Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine. To say that this man was born to play Wolverine is a complete understatement. He was destined to play this character. The casting for him to play Wolverine was so spot on. I can't imagine a better actor choice than Hugh Jackman. He single-handedly brought this character to life for over 20 years, and he did an amazing job, to say the least. He was always the highlight for me with each of the X-Men movies. So just to go through a quick little summary for you. So me and my best friend Jonathan, we watched the three main X-Men movies. Then we watched Wolverine Origins. And then after that, there's X-Men First Class. And then there's X-Men Days of Future Past. And then there was X-Men Apocalypse. And then there's Logan. And the Wolverine from 2013. So Logan marks Hugh Jackman's 9th time playing this character, and he announced before the first trailer dropped that this was going to be his last time playing the character, because playing this character takes a lot out of him. Now, guys, you got to remember, Wolverine, he's an extremely buff guy, so Hugh Jackman would have to... He he had to do this massive diet for over 2 decades for the role of Wolverine. He had a diet. He had to go to the gym and spend hours upon hours a day in the gym working out all the time. And it took a lot of work. And especially like in Logan, I think he had the biggest like muscle mass that he's had out of all the movies. And I got super attached to the X-Men movies very quickly. Like I thought they all aged extremely well. And I loved the story with the team fighting Magneto, who is their main villain. I loved those movies. And I thought they did an amazing job of bringing the story to life, and all the actors in the movies were magnificent. The ones that really stood out to me, of course, was Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Patrick Stewart as the legendary Professor Xavier. These men did such an amazing job bringing these characters to life, and watching them over the course of 20 years and all these movies playing these characters was such a magnificent thing to see. And fun little fact, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart hold the record for the longest time playing a character. I think Patrick Stewart has Hugh Jackman beat because Patrick Stewart was in the brand new Marvel movie Multiverse of Madness playing that universe's Xavier. So I think he holds the record now for longest time playing a character. And the movies are all doing extremely well. And Wolverine Origins, unfortunately, was it didn't do nowhere near as good as they wanted it to. They had a whole list of sequels planned, but they were all canceled. And then years later, they made a sequel called The Wolverine, which picks up the story back in present day after the events of what happened in X-Men 3 Last Stand. And that movie did very well. And then, of course, Hugh Jackman played Wolverine again in Days of Future Past, which is personally one of my favorite X-Men movies. It's literally Terminator 2, but it's an X-Men movie. Like, it's two genres mixed together. It's a very good movie. So then it became time to do one last Wolverine solo movie to have a solid trilogy of solo Wolverine movies. So then we get introduced to Logan. And the movie was released on March 3rd, 2017. And I'm telling you right now, the hype for this movie, I'll never forget it. The internet was going crazy for Logan. And I was so excited for this movie because I identify so much with the Logan character. He's really a tragic character when you think about it. The man doesn't age. He was born in like the late 1800s, and he's alive in present day. Due to his mutation, he never ages. Not really. It's like he hit like early 30s, and then he just stopped aging. So he's been around for a long time. He's never had like any real friends or family members. Everybody he ever cares about gets killed in the worst way possible, so he's always scared to connect with anyone. He has such a sad, tragic story, but his life eventually got better when he joined the X-Men, and he managed, and Xavier gave him a real family. So watching him, become a better person and hanging out with the other X-Men over the course of all these movies was such a beautiful thing to see this story unfold. But dude, the trailers for Logan showed you this was not going to be a happy go-to movie like, say, Days of Future Past. Like, the trailers showed you right away that things were going to get deep real fast, and that this movie was not going to be like the other X-Men movies. Like, literally, the first trailer for this, they used the song Hurt that was covered by Johnny Cash. And the whole trailer is just showing you that it's in the distant future. Logan is really old now. His health has gone down the drain. He's at the end of his rope, working a cab job. Xavier is really old, and he's got dementia. His health's bad. And you don't see any of the other X-Men. And then you just see their lives are at the worst points it's ever been. And you're just like, what happened to them? And the song Hurts playing, and it's just showing you that, like, it's not going to be a happy story. And the movie does an amazing job with the opening, like, but I'll get into that in a minute. But before we get into the actual story, so the director for this movie is James Mangold, who is famous for directing what I consider to be one of the best biopic movies ever made, I Walk the Line, which is about the life of Johnny Cash and how he met his future wife, June Carter. Came out in 2005. Very good movie. He also is directing the brand new Indiana Jones movie, which is set to come out June of next year. And he also directed The Wolverine in 2013. So you already had a good idea on how the Wolverine character works. The movie was on a budget of $127 million, and this movie would go on to make $619.2 million. And I also looked up something right quick before I started recording. The audience rating for this movie is a 4.8 out of 5. So, like, that shows you, like, this movie did amazing, and people consider this to be, like, one of the best superhero movies ever made, and I don't blame them one bit. And to say that I was hyped up for this movie is a complete understatement. I still remember being in my house kitchen when the new trailer dropped and I was making dinner. And I remember sitting at the counter with my phone, just watching the trailer, just so excited to see this because I hadn't gotten a chance to see any of the other X-Men movies in theaters. So the fact that I was finally getting a chance to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine just one more time on the big screen, I'm just like, heck yeah, I'm ready. But nothing prepared me for what this movie was going to do. Like, this was a crazy movie, and I was really attached to the Wolverine character so much that I even dress like him now. Like, Wolverine introduced me into wearing jeans more and wearing flannels and wearing brown leather jackets because that's what he wore in this universe's X-Men story. He would wear boots with like blue jeans with a white tank top with like a red flannel and a biker brown leather jacket with his hair longer and spiked up. So I took a lot of inspiration for how he dressed up, and I wear flannels to this very day. So I took a lot of stuff from his character. So this character meant a huge bunch to me. And around the time this movie was going to be hit in theaters, I was a junior in high school, and I was dating this girl at the time named Gracie, and her and I were huge fans of the character of Wolverine and the X-Men in general. The time we were dating, she was actually binge watching the old 90s X-Men cartoon. She watched that whole thing, and she was really attached to all the X-Men characters, especially Xavier. Like, every time I came over to her house after school, her and I would just sit in her living room. We would just talk about Wolverine nonstop, and her parents would be like in the kitchen, just listen. They would hear us talking to one another, and when me and Gracie went to the homecoming dance that year, the prom. Gracie's mom made me a corsage, and it was a Wolverine claw, and I still have it in my bedroom today. And I gotta tell you, that was such a special moment for me, wearing that Wolverine claw corsage on my suit. That was such a cool moment. There's just something about that. It was such a special moment. And Gracie and I, along with my best friend Jonathan, the three of us went to go see this movie together at my hometown Roseland Theater. And we were hyped up, man. We were ready for this movie. But like I said, we were not prepared for what was about to unfold in this. And the cast for this movie is, you have, of course, legendary Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. You have Daphne Keane playing X-23. You have Patrick Stewart playing Professor Xavier. You had Boyd Holbrook as Donald Pierce. You had Stephen Merchant as Caliban. And lastly, you had Richard E. Grant as Dr. Xander. And this cast, man, was so good. And I'll get into their performances a little later on. So one of my favorite parts about this movie was just like right off the bat, going into this, we all knew that it was going to be a different kind of X-Men because it had an R rating. None of the other X-Men movies, besides the first Deadpool, had an R rating. And this movie, like the trailer showed you right away that things were going to get violent. There was literally a red band trailer that it gave you like a viewer discretion advice, because it literally ends with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine putting his hand claws through a guy's head. It's just showing you like, yeah, we're not holding back in this one. There's going to be a lot of foul language, and there's going to be some very, very brutal death and violence. And dude, the violence in this movie, words do not describe the amount of horrific things that happen to people in this. There is a lot of violence in this movie. And like this story, I'm telling you right now, the opening to this movie establishes what the rest of the thing is going to be like. Here's the opening scene for you. The movie opens up with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine asleep in the back of his limo car that he drives. And he's waking up to the fact that there are guys outside his car. This is late at night out in the desert. And he's like, he was taking a nap because he's an old man now. These guys were stripping the limo of its hubcaps from the tires. He gets up, he tries to tell them like, hey man, like listen, don't do that. Put him back on the car, please. Like he's being nice about it, and at the same time he's kind of drunk. You can see bottles of booze laying on the seat. And the guys just shoot him. He gets back up. He's like, guys, listen, you don't want to do this. And the whole time you're watching this, you're like, why is Wolverine old? Why is he moving so slow? What happened to him? And he tries to get his claws slowly start coming out of his hand, but they're not coming out all the way. They're all messed up. So you're like, what is happening to him right now? Then the guys start beating him up with crowbars and everything. And then Wolverine, he does that famous growl. He snaps. Then he just rips. I am not exaggerating when I say he rips all of them literally to shreds. He takes a dude's arm off. He slashes a dude's face off. And he stabs another guy through the throat. It's just like, oh, dude. And the minute the remaining ones run off in the van, like sad music starts kicking in, and Wolverine goes into a building to go change into a new suit because they damaged the one he was wearing. Then it cuts to a montage of him just driving people around the city where he lives now, because this is his job. And the movie already establishes the fact that like Wolverine, he's at the end of his rope. He's an old man now. He's been beaten literally to the curb. His life is in total shambles. He's got nothing left. He doesn't care about saving the world anymore. He's old. He's really tired, and he sees no point in living anymore. And when he drives back to the base out in the desert where he lives, you find out just how bad things really are. The character of Caliban, which he had a cameo in X-Men Apocalypse that came out in 2016, the year before this came out, but Caliban is played by a different actor in this one. He's played by Stephen Merchant. Anyway, he is living with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine at the compound to help him take care of things, and you find out that they have one more person living with them, and it's Charles Xavier, and you find out right away that Charles is not in good shape either. Like when Wolverine goes into the pod where they're keeping him, like he's living inside this giant sphere building that's fallen over. It's got holes all around it for sunlight. Anyway, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine enters that room, and he's just wandering around in his electric wheelchair, just talking to himself over and over again, because with his powers, he can hear people and what they're doing throughout the day. And you're wondering, like, why does Hugh Jackman's Wolverine have to give Charles medicine? What's wrong with him? And then we see why they have to be so careful around Xavier. He has a seizure, then his powers start going out of control, and Wolverine and Caliban are frozen in place, and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine has to inject Xavier with this medicine because when he has a seizure, his powers make everything within a certain radius stop moving and they can't breathe. And that's due to the fact that his mind is deteriorating, because by this point, I think Charles is like in his early mid-90s. He's nearing the end of his life and he can't control his powers anymore due to his old age. So Hugh Jackman's Wolverine's been looking after him for the last years. And you find out later on in the movie that they're like, what happened to the other X-Men. The X-Men in the mansion were destroyed because Charles had a seizure attack, and the attack, no one didn't know what to do, and his seizure ended up killing all of his students and all the other X-Men. And Wolverine took Xavier away from there, and they ran away, and they've been living out in the desert ever since. So this movie is establishing right away that these characters, they're not going to be the way they were in the other movies. They're both extremely old. They've lost everything. They've been through so many battles, and they fought for mutants for so long, and look where it got them. They have nothing left. So you know right away there isn't really a happy ending in store for any of these characters. Like, they've been through enough. They physically can't do anymore. But then Wolverine is offered a job to transport this lady and her daughter across the border to North Dakota. But unfortunately, the lady is killed and Wolverine just leaves, right? But the little girl snuck into his car, and you find out this little girl is Logan's daughter. There is an organization. So the main threat is this organization that made mutants. And on top of that, the other depressing part about the future is that mutants have gone extinct, and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine even states that there hasn't been a new mutant birth in over 25 years. So like mutants have died out. So you're like what happened? But it's revealed later on in the movie that this organization put in these new ingredients in the food and the drinking, and what we eat and drink. They put new stuff into them, and this stuff prevented any more mutant births from happening. And this evil organization created and bred new mutants. And the nurses at this place didn't agree with what they were doing. So this nurse who had this child released her and the other kids, and they all escaped. And this character her name is Laura, and she has the exact same powers as Wolverine with the instant healing. She has the claws in her hands, and she's very fast. And Logan finds the lady's phone, and he's tasked with taking this girl across the border to North Dakota so that she can be with her other friends so they can cross the border where they'll be safe. So Logan and Charles decide to saddle up for one more fight, one more journey to get Laura to her friends. So over the course of the movie, it's just them on a road trip to get to North Dakota while they're being followed by the evil organization. The two main villains in this is Donald Pierce and Dr. Xander. They're trying to recover all the children and get them back to their base of operations. And over the course of the movie, Logan slowly starts to bond with Laura a little bit because she is theoretically his daughter. And things go pretty well for the most part. And then they end up staying at a farmhouse where this family offered them a place to stay during the night. And this was something in the movie that I didn't think was a good idea. I'm like, you guys know darn well you're being followed, and the organization can find you easily. I don't think it's a good time right now to be staying at this family's house, and things are going to go wrong pretty quickly. So everybody's asleep, right? And Wolverine goes to help the dad out with a chore on the farm. They leave the house for a little bit, but Laura, Xavier, and the other family members are sound asleep. And then you see a figure of Wolverine walk into Charles' room to go talk to him for a minute. But then there's like, you see Wolverine, he's like, wait a minute, he looks younger now. What's going on? And then he slashes Xavier with his claws. And then Laura comes running in and starts attacking him. It's a young Wolverine, so you're like, what's happening? You find out that the organization made a new Wolverine. He's called X-24, and it's a younger, like, clone of Logan. And Logan comes running back, and he has a fight with the younger version of himself, and Charles dies. I'm like, dude, Charles's death scene was so sad because you watched him in 8 other movies fight so hard for X-Men, trying to give mutants more opportunities to live their lives, and he did so much, and he was the only family Logan had left, and he dies in Logan's arms. It's so sad, man. You know, it's just, it breaks your heart. Like, his death scene, like, in the theater, I'm not kidding you, I was on the verge of tears. It was just like, really? That's how he's going to end it? That's how his story ends? You know, it's just, oh, it was so sad. And then Logan continues his fight with X-24, and X-24 slashes Logan up so badly, and him and Laura just barely escape. And then we cut to one of the saddest scenes in the movie where Logan buries Xavier in the woods near a lake. And he's just sitting there in total silence, just trying so hard to keep it together because his worst fear came true again. His only friends, Charles and Caliban, were both killed. His worst fear came true again. He lost more people that he cares about. He has no friends left now. He's completely alone, and all he has left at this point is Laura. Laura holds his hand while he's sitting there in silence, but he just runs back, and he ends up passing out in the middle of the road. And then Laura has to take him to a doctor, and then that's when we finally learn the truth about what's been happening to Wolverine. So Wolverine's powers is he had these claws that come out of his hand, and before he joined the X-Men, he volunteered to be part of this Weapon X program where they were injecting mutants with this liquid metal stuff that covers your entire body. It's called adamantium. And in this universe, it's the strongest metal on Earth. And physically, once that metal cools off and hardens, it is unbreakable. You can't break that metal. So Wolverine was injected with this metal, and it covers his entire skeleton, and his claws are now literally knives that come out of his hand, and it breaks the skin open every time they come out, so it hurts, like, really bad. And over the years of him having this metal inside of him, it was slowly poisoning him. So that's why he's old now. It's affecting his powers so that he's an old man. And the years of carrying this metal has taken a toll on him. So it's slowly poisoning him. That's why he's been coughing so much and why he's so weak all the time. The adamantium skeleton is poisoning him. And there's nothing really that he can do about that. So he gets Laura to the meeting location where they find the other children that escaped from the evil facility, and Logan passes out again, and he wakes up, and the kids give him medicine, so he's all healed up now. And him and Laura have a few more conversations together, trying to get to know one another a little more. But Wolverine reveals to her that he's leaving because he just literally says to her that, listen, I can't stay with you. Horrible things happen to people that I care about. And it's like, can you really blame him? It's like the dude has watched millions of loved ones be killed in front of him over the course of like 200 plus years. So I can't blame him one bit for wanting to leave, but Laura gets mad at him and she just walks away. And the next morning he wakes up and all the kids are gone. They're making their run across the border. And he's getting ready to leave, right? But he looks out in the distance and he notices a caravan of vehicles driving after the kids, and he realizes they're in trouble. So he grabs the medicine that's left and he starts running after the kids in the woods. And what's cool is, while he was asleep, the kids trimmed up his beard, so now he has his Wolverine beard back again. And he's dressed up in his original outfit that he wore in the first movie when we were introduced to him. So I thought that was extremely cool that things go full circle. And the ending battle for this movie is so epic. So the kids are all trying to cross the border because there's a team of mutants waiting to take them in. And the organization's trying to capture all of them before they cross the border, because when they cross it, they were unable to get them because it's out of their jurisdiction. And some of the kids end up being captured, and it cuts to Laura killing the soldiers, and then she just hears Wolverine's yelling out in the distance. Dude, I'm telling you right now, when you hear Wolverine's yell way echoing out in the distance, the hairs on my arms stood up. Like, I'm like, yeah, things are about to get real fast. You just see him come running in full speed. He's got his energy back. He's got his muscles back. The claws are out. He's ready to go to town. He starts slashing up all the soldiers and all the other guys. He's just mowing them all down. He gets to Laura. And here we get to one of my favorite scenes. Father and daughter team up. They put their backs to one another and they start slashing all the other soldiers. And Laura does this cool little move where she runs up her dad's back and jumps up and kills more of the soldiers and everything. Is such a amazing team up. Like, what a wholesome what a wholesome father and daughter moment. What a good bonding experience, slicing up some humans. Like, what a great bonding experience. But but anyway, the juice quickly wears off, so Logan's all tired now. And they keep running along, and they find the soldiers holding the other kids hostage. And Donald Pierce is there with the Dr. Xander. And Logan comes up with a plan to have Laura hide out in the distance, and he'll give her a signal. And he walks out and starts talking with the villains. And we find out that Dr. Xander is the son of the man who was in charge of giving Logan his adamantium injection. And he pulls out, and while Xander is giving his stereotypical villain monologue, Logan's like, yeah, no, I'm done. And he literally shoots Xander with a gun and injures Pierce. But before Wolverine can kill Pierce, he opens up one of the cars and X-24 comes running out of it. So now Logan and him are having a final battle, and Laura kills the rest of the soldiers, and the rest of the kids get out of their handcuffs. They all start using their powers all at once on Pierce, and it's such a amazing thing to see, because like, this guy has been an evil son of a gun the whole movie. Like, he has no remorse for all the evil things he's done, and he put all those kids through such torture. Watching all of them get their revenge on him was such a amazing moment. It was so justified. You're like, yes, finally, adios, jerk. You know, it's just like, finally. So well deserved. And Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and 24 are having a battle, and Wolverine's getting his butt handed to him. He doesn't know what else to do. He tells the kids to run, and X-24 starts dragging him toward this tree with a sharp stump sticking out of it. And Laura's trying to think of what to do. And earlier on in the movie, Caliban finds a adamantium bullet in Wolverine's pocket. And later on in the movie, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine gave Laura that very bullet as a souvenir that he kept. And she pulls out the bullet and she finds a revolver. She sticks the bullet in the revolver. And X-24 stabs Logan with the tree. And so Logan's laying on the ground impaled. And Laura shoots X-24 in the head with the bullet and kills him. And here's where we get to what I consider to be one of the most heartbreaking death scenes I've ever seen throughout all my years of cinema. And Logan's dying. He holds Laura's hand and he tells Laura to take her friends and run. Don't look back. It's over. You don't have to fight anymore. And, you know, Laura's crying. She's freaking out. She doesn't want to lose him because, like, he's the only family she has, and she loves him. She calls him daddy. It's just like, dude, me, Gracie, and Jonathan, this whole scene, we were trying so hard not to cry. It's just, oh, man. It's like you're watching this character you've watched for a couple of years now over the span of 9 movies, and he's dying. It's just... dude, it's like, what do you do, you know? And he says, this next thing that he says to Laura has always stuck with me. He goes, don't be what they made you. Because that's all Logan ever was throughout his life after Guy's Animanium. He was just a weapon being hunted down by the government, and he was used as a weapon to do horrible things, and he made so many people suffer for so long. And Logan's been wanting to die for years now because the man's pushing 300 years of age. And it's so heartbreaking. He's happy that he's finally dying, you know, and he's holding Laura's hand. He's finally seeing a loved one live, finally. And the very last thing he says to Laura before he dies is, so this is what it feels like, you know, to finally have a loved one live and that he's finally passing away in peace. And he dies and Laura just starts crying. She says daddy again, you know, and the sad music is playing and it's such a heartbreaking moment. And the other kids are just standing there watching and they bury Logan. They cover him in rocks and they have a cross set up. And Laura says this monologue that she saw from a cowboy movie that her and Xavier were watching at a hotel that they were staying at earlier on in the movie. And the monologue goes into how, like, a man can't run away from his past and he has to face it at some point, and he's going to do whatever he has to do to protect his family, even if it means giving up his own life. And that's what Logan did for Laura. So it's such a fitting speech she gave. And all the kids start walking away. And Laura does one last thing. She walks over and she turns the cross sideways and it turns into an X. And she looks at the grave one more time. Then she walks away. Then the ending music kicks in. The camera slowly pans in on Logan's grave. And then it just cuts to credits, and that's it. Then you hear Johnny Cash's song, a cover of "A Man Comes Around," and the credits are rolling. There is no after credits scene. That's the end of Logan's story. And I'll never forget when the credits started rolling. I was just sitting there, just in awe. Like, this movie was a mix of so many genres. It was like an adventure, a Western, and a hero movie all within one movie. This story was so unique and so different, you know, and it was such an amazing outing to one of the greatest male lead characters I've ever seen on screen. And it was beautiful, and it was one of the most emotional film experiences I've ever had. 5 years later, every time I watch this movie, it's like I've watched it for the very first time. And this is going to be my favorite X-Men movie for here on. But yeah, that's it's an amazing movie. I highly recommend you check out the X-Men movies. They're all amazing. And Logan, I think it should be used in film schools as an example on how to end someone's story. It tied up all loose ends, and it was an amazing ending. But in other news, that's not going to be Hugh Jackman's last time playing Wolverine. Deadpool 3 just had its first teaser, and it's been confirmed that Hugh Jackman's playing Wolverine again, and we're going to see him along with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool on screen together. The movie's set to come out in 2024, and I'm so excited to see what they're going to do. And this is going to mark Hugh Jackman's 10th time playing this character, and it's going to be his first time playing Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that is very exciting. So I'm very excited that I'm going to get to see him play Wolverine again on screen. So I'm super excited. But that is my review of the movie of Logan. I love this movie. I still hold it as one of the best superhero movies of all time. I want to thank James Mangold, that whole film crew, for making this beautiful, amazing movie. And I had such a blast with this episode. Logan's one of my favorite movies of all time, so getting a chance to talk about it is just amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed this recording. And to you listening, I hope you're living an extraordinary, beautiful life, and I hope everything is working out for you. And I wish you good luck with your future, and I hope you just live your life one day at a time and enjoy the little things, man. You got to. So until next time, this is DJ Apollo here on the Tales of Music and Film.